for 3 cents a foot.
Jeez, well, that's, you said copper weld before.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean copper weld.
Solid
My mistake.
copper.
Solid
Solid
copper.
copper.
Solid copper. I simply went into, the electrical section of the store where they sell the stuff. I didn't want 14. I mean, I could 14 would be fine, but I wanted to have something that would be even more maintenance free, especially for 160, where you're talking about radials that are 123 feet long.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
This is the top of the vertical.
No,
No, the bottom.
This is the feed point in the vertical. This is the bottom of the vertical
Okay,
element.
that's okay. Cool.
Okay.
So what's the thing hanging to the bottom?
That's a coax.
Oh, okay.
That
Go
goes,
ahead.
in, that goes
Go
into the
ahead, go
phasing
ahead.
box.
All right, we got it.
So now I have all the wire I need for basically a quarter of the price it sells for now, which on 6,000 feet is a lot of money. And it's very easy, it's very nice to work with. It's jacketed, which is very important. A lot of people say, oh, bare, jacketed, no difference. Wrong. Jacketed is quieter because it's not exposed to the charge buildup from rain and snow and everything else.
That's for elevated radios.
For elevated radials.
Yeah.
But again, if you're burying the radials, jacketed will last longer. Also, again, if you have bare radials, not only will it pick up more, and I used to use bare wire, so I know the difference, but also it will pit and corrode much faster, which means that it will not survive the strains and stresses of weather in the trees. So I don't care what people say, this works much more effectively. It's also basically the same price, so it's silly not to do it. However, there is a difference in the actual resonant frequencies and the adjustments you have to make in the lengths of elements. So PVC coated wire basically will make the resonant frequency 2 to 3% lower,
Okay.
which is important, but it's not uniform. You have to use some trial and error. So the first Foursquare I put up with this stuff, it was wildly not where I thought it was and at that time nobody was using jacketed stuff. So I experimented with it, and then I did some research, and it was about 2 to 3%. So I had to back that into the calculation, and it's a minor thing. And again, by using elements like this that are so easily accessible, I cut too long first, and then I cut back.
Okay.
So it's a little.
Went to sleep.
So yeah, the whole idea is it's time intensive to get something to work right the first time,
for
but
40
it's worth
meters.
it. This is for 40, but if you were to look at the 80, it's identical in the way it's constructed, and the 160 will be identical too. This is just to kind of show you what I'm working with terrain-wise. This is the element you were just looking at. There is no such thing as level here. And even where you're standing, I was standing on this lichen-infested tree trunk to get at this element here, because it's better to stand on the tree trunk than the jagged rocks and the holes and everything else. And this is why you don't want to be out this terrain. It's brutal.
Now, any of your elements are touching branches of the trees?
Oh
or
yeah,
something?
oh absolutely. Most of them are. Which is another reason why you don't want anything
Any
to rain.
sparkling in the rain or something?
No, but because of the survival out there with the mill with non-jacketed wire, that's another reason. You'll see some more pictures of this because I want to impress upon you the forces of nature. Not only if you're on a hill, but if you're putting up a tower or contemplating putting up a tower, things you need to be aware of. This tree survived 2 direct hits from mild tornadoes. It did not survive Hurricane Sandy. More specifically, it did not survive the sustained 100 mile per hour, 110 mile per hour wind gusts that only a very small area of Connecticut got in Hurricane Sandy. And to kind of tell you about storms, I've had higher than 110 mile per hour winds at my QTH, but not sustained for long enough to take this tree down. This tree did not grow from roots in the ground. This tree grew into the ledge itself. And with all the trees crashing around us when we were in our basement, and I mean so many trees were crashing around us, it was terrifying. We thought one of these was going to hit the house and crush us. We didn't hear this one fall. This is a 95-footer. We didn't hear it fall. The reason we didn't hear it fall is because not only were the other tree crashes louder, But apparently this one fell in slow motion.
Yep.
Because as it was falling, it was breaking the ledge.
Yep.
So the roots that were so big that were in the ledge, which you can see here, were literally cracking these pieces of ledge on the way down. And thankfully for us, that slowed the descent enough that it fell with a lot less force than it could have. But you're going to see how incredibly lucky we were in a moment. Anyway,
Now
this
is that
is...
clear space not for another tower?
No, because the 1015 tower is right here. This is 20 feet from our house. You're about to see how close it is in a minute. This is another view. This is the ledge it came out of. If you look closely, you'll see one of almost the guide point of the 10-15 meter tower. All right? It's going to look a lot closer in a minute. This, by the way, at the base is 4 feet. 4 feet diameter. There's a massive tree. This is after I cut it up 6 weeks after I had major surgery. So this came down on October 31st, 2012. Right over here is one of the guy anchors of the 10 and 15 meter tower. And you can see the chunks that I had to cut up, and these are the cables. You can see another massive tree that came down, and there's several more here, and you'll get another shot, another close-up. And this, by the way, is also the ledge. So if you see my towers up here on the ledge, everything had to be dragged up the ledge, moved around the ledge, and the reason we couldn't get any equipment in here to do any work except a tiny backhoe. And even the concrete to get up there, we had to have the concrete truck drive to over here at the base of this, and then the backhoe had to dip into the concrete and then take the concrete and bring it over to the tower base and pour it in. It was quite an undertaking. Here's the house. Here's the guide point of the 10-15 meter tower. Here's where the tree was. Another 8 feet this way. That's how close it was. Part of our deck is rebuilt. But, well, that's how it looks now. Oh, this was another tree. There's another shot you'll see later on, which is important for you to see. This is another tree. We watched this one fall. My daughter and I were watching in one of the massive wind gusts, and all of a sudden this tree just... And then we watched on the other side 5 minutes later when a bank of 7 trees took down our power lines and other lines, and we watched all the sparking and everything else. We'd never actually seen trees like these fall before. It was quite a surreal experience. There's just this all got broken up. All of this came out of it all broke off from that tree falling. None of this was here before. Another shot. Close up. Okay. This was one of the boulders that broke off. I put my foot here. My foot's about, well, I have a size 12 sneaker. So this is a size 12 sneaker up against one of the pieces that was not only torn out of the ground, it was thrown out of the ground by the force of that tree falling. I haven't even attempted to move this. This probably weighs 300 to 400 pounds. But you can see it's about 3.5, 4 feet long by about 2 feet, and it's about 18 inches high. That's the kind of force involved. This was just shattered by that tree falling. Here's the view I wanted you to see.
Wow.
This is where the tree is. This is the edge of my house. This is the 10 and 15 guide point. This, by, I swear, an act of God, fell precisely between the two. 5 degrees this way would have torn off a good chunk of our house. 5 degrees this way would have simply crushed this and brought down the tower. It fell precisely between the two.
Your insurance man has good connections.
I'll tell you, I happen to be a spiritual person, and it doesn't matter what I believe in, but things like this happening, if you're not spiritual, you will be afterwards, because this and many other things that happen don't happen by accident, especially if they happen several times. Literally. And this was a massive tree with branches at every level. There wasn't even a scratch over here. Nothing even touched the sky wire. I couldn't have aimed it more precisely if I had tried. The only thing is, because it was so long, eventually it did tear off the edge of our deck. But even that and I'm sorry I don't have those pictures, they were for the insurance adjusters. If you saw this massive branches and leaves, like 15 feet high, and in every direction, and I only lost a piece of deck, it was incredible. But this is why you over-guy and you overbuild, just in case something like this happens, because eventually it will. And we have a resident woodchuck now who likes to sit on there, and he's so close to the house I just took a picture of him. Part of the wildlife. The piece is cut up. Again, you see the eye to jaw with the turnbuckle. I forget what you call these, but you're not. You have the eye to jaw turnbuckles. You have the special.
Eye.
I'm sorry.
It's an eye.
Right. No, I'm not talking about the eye. No, I actually have that on the big tower. No, it's like a horseshoe, but there's another term for it, which you have the guy wire go around, and then you apply the actual quarter-inch preforms to it to hold it in place. Years ago in KQ2M, and I was helping to build his station. This is now back around
It's a
1990.
thimble.
Yeah, the thimble. Thank you. It is a thimble. Years ago, when I was helping KQ2M build the station around 1989, 1990. He was one of the first to use the quarter-inch preforms. They were new. The previous way of putting up guy wires and holding them in fast was you use the little saddle clamps, and then you tighten the nuts at 3 different points and whatever, which was a nice way of doing it, and it worked. The preforms came along, and it was something that, if you look at it, it's sort of rotated around. It's like kind of spiraled. It's about 3 feet long. And you put on one leg, and then you wrap the other leg around it, and there's nothing holding it in place except friction and the special coating that's on it. Well, as you might expect, a lot of people thought, well, how the hell is that going to hold up my tower? I don't trust that. And because it was kind of new, Bob figured, what the heck, new station, we'll give it a try. It was really very impressive how well it held and how easy it was to work with. And, once you put those things on, you can get them off, but it's very tough if you put them on right, because they wrap so precisely. But when I was building my station, now there was a lot of history behind these things, another 5-6 years. That's what I did. Forget saddle clamps. I only use saddle clamps holding not the guys, but the guys on my antennas to hold the boom the way that I wanted to. Which I'm sorry I wasn't able to get pictures of that. I've made a lot of modifications to the stock antennas to make them more able to survive in wind and snow and ice.
How do you adjust the tension in the guide wire?
Excellent question. The first thing is I have a special loose tension gauge, which you put on the guy wire and you pull down, and it measures the actual tension. Ideally, for quarter-inch steel guys, you want it to be around 550 pounds, thereabouts. The truth is, a lot of people, because of the contraction in the winter and the expansion in the summer, the tension of your guys can vary. And if you're doing it right, you should be out there retensioning. I've been lazy, I haven't done that. But it does matter, because a play of a couple of inches, when you get it going in a bad storm, you're now allowing the tower to sweep, to twist much more, which can do a lot of damage and create a lot of fatigue over time.
And nothing can withstand the jerk. And the slack will allow a jerk to occur.
That's very true also. And of course, it's not okay when the wind comes in the direction of your guys holding in place, because there are twisting forces. And if the wind's coming in between, it still creates other forces. So no matter how you have your guys set up, you want them as tight as reasonably possible, but not over tight, so that you don't allow the twisting forces any more than they simply have to be there. So that maintenance is important. But getting back to, as far as the question of tightening, well, what you do is, these are eye to jaw. Initially, when you put this on, you should have this twisted all the way out, so that only the very edge of the actual screw itself is right at the shaft of the eye to jaw itself. And what that does is that gives you about, I'd say 8 to 10 inches this way and 8 to 10 inches this way to tighten it, and then what you do is you use something called a Chicago clamp or a number of other ways to tighten the actual, as much as you can, tighten the actual guy wire while you're taking tension readings. So it's a process to do it. And you don't want to just tighten everything all the way. You have to work all three of them in there gradually.
You're gonna bet.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, one of the hardest things is to get a tower straight. It's almost impossible. Because no matter how you look at it, it always sags, or it's hooked, or it can be a full day project to do it right, even before you put antennas on it. Afterwards, it's a real nightmare. And in my case, one of the guy wires, just because of where it had to go, is 160 feet. Is 160 feet from the tower, versus other ways where it's 100. So there are differences in forces that, yeah, and that's on the big tower. But again, you put them where they have to go. This is looking down my driveway. This was a cluster of 7 trees that took down all my power lines, phone lines, cable lines, everything. This is my driveway. You'll see in a minute why we were literally cut off from the world. Something that is really a reality here because of just the terrain and why you have to plan for it. Crazy. There were 7 trees here. 3 of them are gone now. So this was 4. This was basically 6 feet high. I had to cut through it. And then this massive tree came down. And then there were several more down here. There were 15 trees across my driveway. You couldn't get in or out of here for a couple of days. And thankfully, because I wasn't well, I had some neighbors' help. We had to pull the lines out. And we had to walk through, under, and over all these trees to actually get access. You couldn't go up this way. You had to go this way through wetlands and just, I mean, I can't even explain it to you, but that's what happens, unfortunately, when you live on a hilltop. We were the worst, absolute worst place to be, except for coastal New Jersey. But we actually got more ferocious winds. Just more trees that came down. And this is now all cut up years later. And finally, the power company does not deal with between the house and the first pole, which is a problem, because I had to physically take out so many trees here by myself. But fortunately, one of the power companies from Maine took pity on me, and they personally took out a lot of trees that we had no obligation to do. It was really nice of
Next time
them.
will be good to be underground.
I'm sorry?
Next time will be good to be underground.
Yeah. And over here, I actually had them put in a separate additional guide point, because the trees were always falling this way, causing the pole to fall this way. So finally now we have that in here. And unfortunately, it was a really, really horrible 14-month period to live in Newtown. It started with the October 31st, 2011 surprise blizzard.
Snowstorm, yeah.
No, blizzard. 20 inches of wet, heavy snow with full leaf from the trees.
Yeah.
It was absolutely devastating. There had never in recorded history been a storm like that in this part of New England.
Oh, yeah,
It couldn't
to
have come to the worst. Well,
cover all
no,
the trees down.
yeah.
The leaves were
Yeah,
still on the trees.
that's what we had, and it devastated our town.
Yeah.
And that was 2 months after a weaker hurricane. And then a year later, unfortunately, on the same day, October 31st, we had Hurricane Sandy, which absolutely devastated whatever else was left. We had to rebuild a lot of infrastructure in the town. Forget the hills. I mean, people were trapped for as much as 10 days. You simply had no access to a lot of streets where you had a lot of woods and they all came down. I had been relatively unscathed in the past. I mean, I lost power countless times. You'd have 1 tree or 3 trees or 7 trees as in Hurricane Irene, but nothing like this. All the trees that had never come down before in any storm came down in this one. And it could have been worse. I thought these trees right here were going to take out our house. Fortunately, they didn't. And then 6 weeks later, we had unfortunately, the Sandy Hook massacre. Sandy Hook is in Newtown, where we had the slaughter of 20 elementary school kids and 6 teachers. It's just 6 weeks after that. So it was really hard at the time to be living here.
So do we have a generator there?
I do now, yeah. Oh, yeah. After having countless power failures, and I got very good at taking all my work and laptops and computers and setting up in a hotel, and I'd be up and running in 2 hours. I said, but my health was so bad that even wasn't an option. And I said, we had somebody come in, and I got a special 15 kW generator, Generac generator, real heavy duty. It was about 400 pounds. And I had and wire the entire house. So rather than a zone in the house or a couple of rooms, I said, no, we're gonna do this the right way. The entire house is hooked in to the box. And the
And
box,
is that noise free on the radio?
I don't know, I've never tried it. If I have to have emergency power, I'm not thinking about radio. And
If it's not in the middle of the con.
it doesn't matter.
What do you fuel it with?
How long were you
Gasoline.
without power?
Gas.
Yeah.